All right, so here we go again, y'all. It's the return of Republican Joe Manchin. So, you guys know he was the biggest impediment to getting the full reconciliation bill through, the full Build Back Better bill through. Now, we're going to get to more on that in a second, but it was him and it was Kyrsten Sinema that were the biggest thorns in the side of Bernie and President Biden. And he single-handedly changed the course of the U.S. by being obstructionist on that front. Now, don't get it twisted, because if it was Republicans in charge, not only would we not have gotten anything passed at all, but it would have been like another bad bill. It would have been like another corporate tax cut, another tax cut for the rich, another bill that outsources hundreds of thousands of jobs from the U.S. So it would have been worse if it was Republicans in charge. But it's because of Joe Manchin we got the Inflation Reduction Act, which was, 20% of what the Build Back Better bill was supposed to be? Something like that. So Joe Manchin knows, he sees the polls, he sees Republicans are favored to win in the midterms. He's scared for his own ass. And so he's already starting his reelection campaign. And his move is, West Virginia, don't kick me out. I'm a Democrat, but I'm one of the good ones, and I'm kind of really conservative because my state's conservative, so I'm just like you guys, I'm really conservative. So he comes out and he goes, oh, we need a deal. We need a deal on our debt, on Social Security, on Medicare, on Medicaid. We got to do what we got to do. We got to cut it. We got to cut these programs. What's always amazing to me about this is, even in conservative states, it is not popular to want to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. It's not popular at all. But his strategy is, let me say I agree with the Republicans and I want to cut these things because that'll help me get reelected. I simply don't agree with him that this is a good strategy to get elected. Look, Joe Manchin, yes, he needs to be more socially conservative in West Virginia. Maybe, lay off a little bit on the abortion politics, lay off on the gun issue, you know what I'm saying? Because this is West Virginia. It is more conservative. But outside of the social issues, they want you to look out for them. They need Social Security. They want Medicare. They want Medicaid. They want, cash relief for the poor. So I just think it's a fundamental misunderstanding of the way politics works. Socially, he needs to be more conservative than your average Democrat. But economically, West Virginia has a rich labor history, a rich union history. And these are people who are left economically. But he reads it totally wrong, and he leans in on, being fiscally conservative, and he ends up saying a lot of things here that are fucking ridiculous. So let's go through this here. This is in Bloomberg. West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin said Thursday that Congress needs to deal with the nation's crippling debt by making changes to shore up Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and other programs he said are going bankrupt. All right, there's already so much to respond to there. What drives me crazy is when you have U.S. senators who don't even understand the difference between the national debt and the annual deficit, and what's even possible when dealing with the debt. You cannot eliminate our national debt. It's not possible. It's not a thing. You're never going to do it. It's 22 trillion or something like that? This is all the money since the beginning of the country that we accrued in debt. Now, the U.S. government is not like a household. You don't have to balance your budget every year or whatever the fuck. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. In fact, public deficits yield private surpluses. You understand what that means? So when the government takes on debt and spends money, we have a public debt, but that is a private surplus. So that helps the private economy when you usher new private debt, new public debt. He either doesn't know this or knows this, but misstates it. I just think he doesn't understand it. He doesn't know it. Even this idea of these entitlement programs are going bankrupt. That is totally not true. Totally not true. They've been saying this since the 1970s, 1980s. Oh my God, they're running out of money. In a decade, they're going to be gone. And then a decade comes and they're not gone. They're just not. And, even if you didn't touch these programs in any way, shape, or form, yeah, maybe in 15 years, you'd have Social Security paying out, or Medicare paying out 80% of the benefits it does today. But that's still 80%. And there's also small changes you could make that would make them solvent forever. So, for example, for Social Security, the point everybody makes is raise the cap on the Social Security tax. So right now, it's about $130,000, $140,000 a year. You get taxed a certain percentage. your first 140,000, but everything above that is you don't get taxed on it. So like LeBron James pays the same amount, or some like Wall Street CEO who makes $20 million a year pays the same amount for Social Security tax as, a dentist who makes $130,000 a year. Why should that just lift the cap and tax the wealthy more, and then you could fund Social Security as far as the eye can see? But he doesn't bring this up because that's not what he wants to do. He wants to cut it. He wants to put the entitlements on the chopping block. Manchin said at a Fortune CEO conference, what a West Virginia Democrat he is. He'd like to see bipartisan legislation over the next 2 years to deal with entitlement programs, which he said are facing tremendous problems. That's nonsense. Some of the trust funds that help support the programs could run out of money in the next 12 years. That's total bullshit. There'd be a slight reduction in benefits. It wouldn't run out of money. That's nonsense. Which would trigger cuts to benefits. By the way, again, notice their instinct of like, oh, we got to be fiscally responsible. Nowhere to be found when it comes to any and all military spending. I mean, these people on a daily basis, they fart out another $1 billion for Ukraine. They give more money and more weapons to Saudi Arabia and Israel. We spend hundreds of billions every year on so-called national defense. Nobody says a goddamn word about, hey, maybe we need to roll that back 20 or 30%. Nobody says anything about that. But the second thing, fiscal responsibility, is always like, well, you need to take a haircut. The average person who's barely getting by, you need to take a haircut. Not fucking Raytheon or Boeing or Halliburton. You do. Unbelievable. We cannot live with this crippling debt, Manchin, a Democrat, said. If we can't come to grips of how we face the financial challenges this country has, then we're all going to be paying a price that we cannot afford. Again, simply doesn't understand the way a national debt works. No clue. Forget not understanding MMT. He doesn't even understand Keynesian economics. I mean, this is just garbage. Manchin made his remarks a few days before midterm elections that will decide control of Congress for the next 2 years. Republicans who are forecast to take control of the House and are challenging for control of the Senate are running on promises to rein in government spending. Some are proposing cutting outlays for Social Security and Medicare, popular but expensive programs that benefit the elderly or disabled, and using next year's deadline to raise the U.S. debt limit to extract concessions from Democrats. By the way, this is what you need to be worried about. Because if Republicans take control, they have said, oh, we're going to use the debt limit to force through what we want to force through. So in other words, the U.S. debt limit, it's crazy we even have a debt limit, right? Because if you don't lift it when you need to lift it, what you're saying is the U.S. is not an honest creditor. It's about money we've already spent. And so to have a limit is crazy because it's like if we already allocated the money, but the debt limit can't, the debt limit, it would eclipse the debt limit. Well, then the full faith and credit of the United States government is kaput. It's done. It's gone. It's like nobody ever, anywhere in the world ever should take our word seriously on anything ever again. And it would plunge the U.S. into a literal depression, not just a recession. It would be a depression. So, I mean, it's crazy, but the Republicans, just like they played chicken with this in the Obama years, in 2010, it looks like it's gonna be a similar thing where they will go to Biden and they will say, oh, you want us to raise the debt limit? You need some of our votes? Well, you need to cut Social Security, you need to cut Medicare, you need to cut Medicaid, and if you don't, we'll just plunge the U.S. into a depression. That's what we're facing with Republicans taking back control. Now, look, I got many criticisms of the Democrats, right? But the debate we were having is which parts of Build Back Better are we going to get through under the Democrats? It wasn't like, hey, should we do a giant depression or starve grandma? Like that's going to be the debate that we're having now. And it's because Joe Manchin also wants to virtue signal to the right so he gets reelected by agreeing with them on an issue where the voters aren't even going to reward him for agreeing with the Republicans. Again, this is fucking crazy talk here. This is crazy stuff. President Joe Biden has vowed to protect the two programs and warned that a standoff over the debt ceiling would unleash economic chaos. Yeah, but what if that's what they want? They want that, and then they'll turn around and blame you, Joe. So they'll cause it, they'll turn around and blame Biden, and then they'll try to win in 2024. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders said in a New York Times interview published Thursday that Democrats should raise the debt limit before the new Congress convenes in January if Republicans win the House or the Senate to protect Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid from cuts. That almost certainly would require Manchin's backing. So this is Manchin being like, maybe I'm not with you on that. Oh my God, here we go again. Here we go again. Manchin separately said both parties bear some blame for inflation, which is running near a 40-year high. He criticized pandemic relief stimulus checks sent to Americans by Congress under both Biden and former President Donald Trump. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So what does he blame for inflation? You guys gave a little bit of help to people in the middle of a raging pandemic and an economic implosion. How dare you, bro? Oh my God. Joe Manchin, you're so fucking stupid. So he hasn't read any of the literature, and it's endless now, that says, actually, the real reason for inflation is the supply chain, because of the global pandemic being fucked up, corporate profits, and monopolies. 54 to 60% of inflation is just corporate profits. That's all it is. Just corporate profits. They're price gouging. They're taking advantage of the narrative and the mania and the hysteria around inflation to just jack up prices across the board. 54% to 60%. So, big business, monopolies, this is the problem. Corporate price gouging, this is the problem. He points out the little bit of help, the $2,000 worth of checks that people got in the middle of a raging pandemic. That's the problem. That's the problem. Not the multi-billion or multi-trillion dollars that were dumped into corporate America. Not that. So it's not the corporate bailout, the corporate welfare. It's the welfare for regular people. That's the problem. This is fucking psycho stuff, man. This is psycho. This is part of the problem with Joe Manchin, is he buys into every right-wing narrative around the economy. Now, some of Joe Manchin's shittiness is because he's deeply corrupt and he's owned by big oil, right, and other industries. And some of his shittiness is that he genuinely has right-wing economic sentiments, right? And so anything we extract from him, it's like we're fucking lucky to get anything. So ultimately, Joe Manchin is doing another heel turn, because he briefly did a little face turn, but now he's doing a heel turn again because he thinks this is going to help him get reelected. And just what a fucking terrible idea. Again, I want to remind you. So what did we get under Biden? What was the big piece of legislation that had a bunch of good provisions in it? It was the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act. And that had, for example, 15% corporate minimum tax rate. That's super fucking based. 1% tax on stock buybacks. Super fucking based. Tens of billions of more dollars for Obamacare to give more people health care. Based. $6,000 for a purchase of a new electric vehicle. Based. There's a whole bunch of good provisions. We've gone through them on the channel. We don't have to go through them all again, but a bunch of good ones, right? But here's what we could have had. And here's the reality, guys. If we had gotten this, the Democrats would be cruising to reelection today. We'd be talking about a blue wave. This is what was in the original Build Back Better. Extension of the child tax credit, universal pre-K, paid family leave, paid medical leave, tuition-free community college, lower prescription drug costs, dental, hearing, and vision expansion under Medicare, more money for housing, more money for home care, major climate money, some immigration provisions, lower Medicare age, that would have been huge, Obamacare expansion, we got that part, and then we would have beefed up IRS tax enforcement. That's also part of the IRA, which, by the way, they're going after the wealthy in that people make over $400,000 a year, just so you know. Taxing the rich, taxing corporations, fees on polluters, and Medicare negotiations. So, and we also got some lower prescription drug prices, but it's only for certain drugs and for the elderly, so it's not for everybody. Again, if it wasn't for Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, we would be talking about a blue wave, because they would have gotten the biggest transformation of the American economy since the New Deal through. And now Joe Manchin, yet again, is coming out there, doing his heel turn, and letting everybody know, I'm about to fuck your shit up, man. I'm going to agree with the Republicans on cutting Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. And that is fucking devastating. And Joe Biden famously said the other day in a speech, I ain't going to do it. I ain't going to cut those programs. He better fucking stand strong on that, man. He better stand strong on that. Because people can't fucking take any cut to those programs or any sort of weird new privatization scheme or whatever. And that's how they're going to present this. They're going to say, oh, it's reform. Oh, it's improving these programs. No, it's not. It's making them solvent in the long run. There's going to be a lot of mainstream media propaganda which skews the reality, but we're going to be here to tell you the reality. All right, guys, that's the show, y'all. I love you very much. Definitely check out tonight. It is tonight. We have the election, the midterm elections. I will be covering it live right here on this channel. I will be with the Breaking Points crew. It'll be Crystal, Sauger, Marshall, me, Ryan Grimm, Emily. We're all going to be there. We're all going to be covering all the races, all the specific numbers that come in, have some interesting conversations and debates. Really looking forward to that. Definitely check that out. And of course, for those of you who like this show, do me a big favor and like the video, subscribe to the channel, trying to get to 1 million subs. It's very difficult to get there. The algorithm fucking hates this channel. And click that little bell notification so you get a notification every time a new video drops. And a big shout out, of course, to all the Patreon supporters of this show. You guys make it work. It's because you guys have never had to have a conversation with an advertiser in over a decade of doing the show. Shout out to all the people on Substack who subscribe to Crystal Kyle and Friends and pay $5 a month to get the video version of the show a day early over there. Love you guys too. You guys mean the world to me. And of course, you guys could check this out on all the podcasting outlets. We now post the full shows on a daily basis over there. So check that out too. All right, guys. I love you very much. Everybody tune in tonight. Lord only knows what's going to happen, but it's going to get wild either way. So I'll see y'all later. Peace. If you want to see me and Crystal Ball interview legends like Noam Chomsky, Cornel West, and more, subscribe to Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack. $5 a month gets you the video version a day early. Remember, we take 0 ad dollars for this podcast. Or you can sign up on Substack for free and get the audio version a day later. Link in the video description box below.